Welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
I like that one. I'm Jeff. Thanks for coming back, everybody. We are continuing to look at HBO's Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
A little bit later than I thought we would. It's been a weird week. Our dog got skunked.
Yes. Oh my God. Again.
We should have been recording a podcast the night she got skunked, but instead, it was just a rough couple days.
She just does not like them.
She does not like skunks. No, it would be nice if they could be friends.
Right? She'd just be like, hey, how you going? And she'd smell their butt instead of get squirted
by
their butt.
Both Sophie and the skunk would do that little kind of like bouncing.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so
bounce
cute.
Towards each other, just like Pepe Le Pew.
Oh, that would be cute. I would love that if that happened, but it doesn't.
But if she snuggled a skunk, she'd probably still smell kind of bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not one of those people that are going to get their butt glands taken out.
For the neighborhood skunks? No, I don't think that's
well,
really
I mean, if we had a pet skunk, I wouldn't. That's just, I don't know.
No, you can't have a
I mean,
pet
maybe
skunk.
it's nice, actually. Wouldn't you like your butt glands taken out if they were a problem like that?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we would be doing them a favor.
Take them out right now. I'm trying to think about what that would do to me. What glands do I have in my butt? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, Sophie, the dog of Thrones, took a shot right in the eye.
Poor thing. Right in the eye.
Yeah, not good.
Now her eyeball smells still.
Yeah, you keep touching her face, and then you're like, oh, my hand smells.
She smells worse today than 2 days ago.
It's all through our house. Ugh.
All right.
Taste it. It's in my car. Somehow it got in my car. I don't think this
just randomly shows up
I think
throughout the house.
I think the skunk like went around to the front of my car and just vindictively like sprayed the front grill of my car so that it comes in through the vents. I think that's what
it could also be that, like, I don't know exactly where it happened, but maybe it did like rub its fur that already had the spray juice on its tail or something.
It was just snuggling my car, like nuzzling out.
Went
like
under it.
does.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Yuck.
Been a week.
Skunk juice.
So yeah, Lovecraft Country.
Oh my gosh.
Season 1, Episode 2, Whitey's on the Moon.
Whitey's on the moon.
Whitey's on the Moon.
I loved that.
I've got some stuff to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about it.
When we get to that part.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the beginning. Everything starts off so happy. George and Letty are dancing around this mansion.
Right.
To the tune of the Jeffersons theme song, If You're Young.
Moving on up. I love that song.
That was very much our childhood.
Yes, I love that song.
And we were probably too young to like
we didn't get
appreciate those shows.
It was funny.
I liked the Jeffersons more than All in the Family, where that was because the Jeffersons was a spin-off, right? And I'd never really cared for All in the Family that much.
Why?
But I did watch the Jeffersons. I don't know. It just never really clicked with me as being very funny.
What about What's Happening?
I think I was too young. I watched a little bit of What's Happening, but did I? I think I watched a little bit of What's Happening, but I definitely watched What's Happening Now because that was actually a current show in our formative years.
I did not. I watched all of the others plus Sanford and Sons.
I never really got that one either. I think I was too young.
I loved it. I loved all of those shows.
They were great.
Yeah.
Great comedy. And in this case, it has nothing to do with the Jeffersons, except the Jeffersons were kind of rich, right? They were pretty well off. And that was the show was centered around this black family that moved into this high-rise apartment.
They finally got their piece of the pie.
So if you haven't seen it, if you're too young for that.
Oh, yeah. I bet a lot of people don't know about it.
I don't really know the demographics. Like
you can't find it on TV. At least not that I'm aware.
Yeah, well, we don't have cable, so. All right, so anyway, George and Letty are having a great time. George he's cleaned up. When we left them, they had just arrived at this mansion covered in blood.
Right, freaked out.
Yeah, had not been a good evening. And
Whitey answers the door.
The whitest man alive, yes, who we came to call William.
He's almost an albino. All of them.
Almost, yeah. But George is now, he's cleaned up. He's wearing a nice new outfit, like a nice polo shirt. He's looking for the 50s. I mean, you might not wear that shirt today, It was a little loud.
I loved it. No, he looks awesome. He's very, very fit.
And there's books in his room, and he is so excited for all the
books. I thought we were talking about.
And Letty, meanwhile, Letitia, she is having a fashion show in her bedroom.
Right.
She's having a great time trying on all these different outfits.
Dance around her outfits.
And Atticus, Tick, he is more subdued. Instead of being happy that they're in this awesome fancy place, he's thinking about monsters biting people in half. So there's a little bit of a mood difference there.
Right.
And yeah, George and Letty seem like they're doing pretty well after that attack.
They're happy. I mean, they're got their piece of the pie.
Then this very loud bell rings. They all go out into the hallway, and Letty, very fancy. She's looking good.
Wearing her riding clothes.
Looking good. I'm just saying, babe, no offense, but she's looking very good.
All right.
You can
I mean, you didn't really have to like emphasize it so much. You could have just said she's looking good and moved on.
Looking real good.
But then you had to point it out to me.
Sorry.
Fuck you.
Oh, like you never appreciate.
Well, I don't sit there and say, I'm just saying, Jeff, he's looking good.
Oh, really? Good. Let's try a little experiment real quick. Henry Cavill.
Isn't it Henry Cavill?
Not my point.
I mean, he's the Witcher. He's got secret powers.
She might have secret powers.
She might, yeah. I agree. She is very beautiful and has a lovely body. Nothing wrong with her. None whatsoever.
She's my Henry Cavill now.
Okay, all right. She's a little young, don't you think?
I don't know.
For you?
She's not 12. I mean, come on.
Okay.
She's a fully
I don't know how old she is. She just looks really young. 21, maybe.
No, I'm sure. Anyway, it's a lunch bell, and we meet William, the whitest man alive. We get a name. His name's William. They're talking about Montrose, Tick's dad.
Right.
William says all he knows is that Montrose went to Boston with a lawyer and Miss Braithwaite, who we come to know as Christina. But we've seen her
recently.
If we're putting the pieces together, they haven't really told us anything. But if she's the lady with the silver car, which she is, then she's not in Boston.
Liar.
Because we just saw her the day before not exploding.
Well, I mean, she could have left
for a car.
Well, that's right. She was there.
Yeah.
And he said she left 2 days ago.
Right.
So are we sure he said she was with them?
Uh-huh. The lawyer and Miss Braithwaite took Montrose to Boston. So that's all lies. But maybe William might not know. He just says that's what he is aware of. And that could be true.
Right. That's all he's privy to.
Yeah, we have no idea what privileges this guy has. But he's at least a little bit of a servant. He has been instructed to treat this trio like family. And so they're getting pampered. It's very nice. But it does mean that someone knew all these guys were coming. They were expecting them, which I guess they said at the end of the last episode too. Like William said, we've been expecting you. So they knew they were coming. Fine. Interesting. Point of order. No telephones in this house because it's meant to be a retreat, a place of relaxation.
And they made a point of that.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about that.
Of course. But you have to. I mean, it's like, otherwise.
Right. Call 911, but 911's not coming for you guys.
Probably not.
But they didn't have 911.
I'm sure these guys have control over whoever the local police is.
Yes.
As they get a tour of the house, we see there's a description of Samuel Braithwaite and how this is his lodge. But we see a painting of the original progenitor of this line, Titus Braithwaite, the man who built the original Ardham. Not Arkham, Ardham. And it's not the sort of painting you would normally see anywhere, ever, because he's clearly in a cultist robe.
However, it is real. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the different painting. Right. Yeah, I mean, it totally looks like KKK, but warlock-like looking.
Well, yeah, with the sat. Well, now the KKK is very Dungeons and Dragons, and I can't remember. I feel like I've learned this at one point, like how all that came to be, and I can't remember what it is now. But the KKK uses anything from Grand Wizard to Cyclops, dragons. They have all this fantasy imagery in their stuff.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Huh.
The different ranks if you're a clan member. And this could seem like it might be going down that road, but they don't have the pointy hood in the picture. So
yeah, it's kind of pointy.
Is there?
Yes.
But it's just a hood. It's not like a...
No, it's kind of pointy. fairly certain. And what's with the look on his face? If you're getting a painting, come on. Don't be all stern and mad.
But he's wearing a cultist robe. It's automatic. It's not supposed to be a happy painting.
I know, but I mean, he's like,
it's designed to show off his power, I guess. So we find out that, he was the guy that made this place, and there was a fire, and this whole place burned down, and what we're in right now is a recreation. There was just one survivor of that fire, a slave named Hannah.
Right. Did they disclose all of this information already?
It was all kind of hinted at.
Right.
I mean,
I feel like he wasn't like being so direct about it.
They talked about Hannah, and they talked about how there was one survivor of the fire, and eventually we put all the pieces together.
Eventually, yes.
I don't remember anyone saying that she was pregnant, but maybe because it turns out she was. I mean, the whole point of this being she was pregnant, probably with Titus Braithwaite's kid. And and she escaped from this fire that burned everything down.
Right. So wait, now is Titus...
Oh, wait, I did skip ahead of my notes.
This was great.
My apologies. I skipped ahead by accident, like a whole page worth of notes. But we do hear about the fire. Sorry. They do talk about that. It killed everyone, or almost everyone. But yes, it was Hannah, the pregnant slave. Okay. Go on. What were you saying?
I don't know.
All right. We find out that Mr. Braithwaite has called a meeting of the lodge members tonight, and now our friends will be treated to an amazing lunch out on the veranda. Have you ever had a house with a veranda?
Yes.
Yes.
Every house I've ever lived in had a veranda, darling.
Someday we'll have a veranda. What is a veranda? It's a patio. But
it's an upstairs patio that overlooks like a garage, like a scenic, nice play area.
It seems like a play area.
Not play area, just area. Like a garden, or it could be to the ocean. Something lovely to look at, I think.
Well, and it was lovely. Very nice.
Yes.
All right. So we get a little bit more detail. Well, not much. But we find out William's a close personal friend of Christine Braithwaite. The silver car is hers, but she's not here right now. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. And
they almost look like brother and sister.
Oh, yeah, totally. They're all the whitest people alive. But it would seem like he's not a Braithwaite.
It would seem. It would seem like that, but I mean, that's pretty coincidental.
Well, or, when you take in the applications, you ask for a headshot for your butlers.
And that's, maybe.
You're looking for a certain type.
Okay.
It has a very, master race kind of feel, doesn't it?
It does.
They're very Aryan.
The whiter, the better.
Yeah.
But they don't ever say that.
No. And
they don't seem racist.
Being surprisingly nice to these black people.
Except for a couple little comments here and there.
Now, everyone, maybe not Letty, but George and Tick definitely think that this is very suspicious. Like, why are these white people actually being nice to us, letting us into their home?
Right.
Letting us touch their shit, feeding us, all this stuff. But Letty's just having a great time. She's hungry. She's singing and dancing at the table, and she wants salt because white people don't season their food. But it turns out she doesn't remember what happened last night, and neither does George.
No.
And they're both a little confused when they stop and think about that they don't remember what happened. They don't remember being in the forest, the monster attack, the cabin, the car crash, getting to the mansion. They don't remember any of it, but Tick does.
Right.
So he starts getting upset. He's freaking out, but they're being watched, so he calms himself, and they have a little talk. They walk the grounds a little bit. They find Woody, the car. It seems to... it still has the rear window shot out, but any damage it got from crashing into that cabin seems to be gone. Not sure why we have one, but not the other. Well,
because they were shot out before they got to, what's this county called?
Devon.
Devon County. Yeah. That happened outside Devon County. So magic.
Those bullets were non-magical.
Right.
I guess.
Or they would remember that anything that happened outside Devon County. So if the back window was there,
that's a good point.
They'd be like, "You guys magicked this fucking window."
Right? No, you're right. So they fixed the car crash damage to make Tick seem crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no. That's a good point. I had not thought of that at all. There was apparently a lot of blood inside the car, but the butler cleaned it out because he has a good job.
And we haven't met the butler.
Well, we saw a butler that delivered salt and pepper to Letty on a platter.
That was him. No, that was Whitey. I mean,
no, that was an old dude.
Was it?
Because William was watching from the window.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is all too much for Chick to handle. He storms off, but I guess not really, because they're all still walking together as they get to this quaint nearby village.
Well, wait, now say they're like, is it okay if we go to the village? And he said, yes, just as long as you're back before dark.
Right. Which, if you didn't remember what happened the night before. See, now there's a problem, because you might want people to forget the monsters, but you don't want people continually running into the monsters. And they're going to if you let them forget that the monsters are there.
Sure. But also it was before dinner. Sorry, not before dark.
Right. Well, yeah. He wanted them back for dinner specifically. He didn't say dark. That's true. But someone else says get
dark.
Home before dark.
Yeah.
So they get to this nearby village, which looks like something out of a Renaissance fair almost.
It does. I bet they used Pomona.
What?
The Pomona Renaissance Fairgrounds.
Oh, I feel bad for that place.
Yeah.
They didn't get to have a Renaissance fair this year. I hope
April.
they don't go out of business. Sadness.
Sorry.
Yeah, anyway. So Tick's like walking around, and Letty and George are talking about this whole memory loss thing. And even though they're struggling to remember and something's clearly wrong, they're still going to put it on Tick. And Letty suspects he has shell shock.
It's not shell shock.
Which I only wrote that down because I remember this old George Carlin routine about the way we manipulate language. And shell shock evolved into battle fatigue, which evolved into something else, and eventually was evolved into the term post-traumatic stress disorder. But George's thing was that we sucked all the humanity out of it and the impact. Like shell shock, you hear that and you're like, oh, we got to get that person some help. But post-traumatic stress disorder, like it's a little bit harder to understand just what that means. If you just say that at someone, they don't necessarily get it.
It's a lot
shell
of words.
Shock,
right.
You're in the war, you have shell shock.
Yeah.
So I wrote that down just because of that. But it's PTSD.
They might as well call it murder shock.
So it's basically PTSD, which he could have, but he says no. And then they hear a whistle. The same whistle from the night before. So Tick follows that, and he finds this really creep-ass lady with a couple of dogs that are barking their fool heads off.
Mm-hmm. I don't like her. She reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead, new lady, the new villain.
New villain? Oh, from Fear the Walking Dead?
Yeah, what's her name?
With the Jessie. I don't remember now. Virginia,
right.
I could see that. All right. Has a sort of similar calm but very threatening demeanor too. It was an interesting little conversation they had.
Yes.
Very racist-ish,
right.
But like under the surface. She's able to calm the dogs down, but then they talk about the dangerous woods. Mm-hmm. And they say something about grizzlies, and
we
the lady
don't
says,
have no grizzlies.
Black bears.
Just the black ones.
But then when she talks about how dangerous the black bears are, she just says blacks.
Right. The blacks are smart. They're not smart.
Mm-hmm. And they're persistent, always sticking their noses where they don't belong.
Right.
And I feel like she's not talking about bears no more.
How do people just hold back? I mean, because that's a real thing that happens. People make stupid comments like that. If I was them, I would be like punching her in her face.
Well, it's amazing how some things have never changed. What really just hit, I guess the right word maybe is hit home. Like what hit home for me in the last episode was the way when they were out like looking for the property line that they were looking for, and that cop came up behind them, mm-hmm. and then they had they had to basically beg to not get shot.
Right.
Like, but the way George was immediately so friendly and deferential to the police officer, and so over the top polite. Mm-hmm. But it just feels like nothing's changed, because no matter how rude that cop is to you, you can't snap at him because he'll kill you. Well, and
right.
I mean, it's obviously
you can't challenge them at all.
Right.
You have to go fight it in court and let whatever happens happen.
Right. But if you mouth off, you could just wind up dead on the spot.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with those issues. Maybe not as widespread, but widespread enough.
So yes. I mean, there are stories we could talk about, but we probably shouldn't do that here.
I mean, we've done it before, but we'll
get really
sidetracked.
I'll tell you like 30 seconds one
right.
time. in band camp.
Oh.
No.
I thought you were talking about new stories, but go on.
No, something that happened to me. And I was just thinking if I had been black or maybe anything else. I was a white woman and I parked in a handicapped spot because it was raining. I had the kids in the car. I just wanted to run into Papa John's and get my pizza and run back out. By the time I ran in and ran out, I was getting a ticket and I went off on this guy. I was newly single mommed and struggling and totally stressed out. My kids are very young and I just went off on this policeman. Uh-huh. If I had been anything else than white, I would have been arrested and my kids would probably have been put in foster home that night, because where else are they going to go? I didn't know anybody else here.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Instead, he gave me the ticket and said I was a poor example for my children.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah. Fucker.
He decided to moralize on you. Okay.
Yeah, and there were other handicap spots available. There were 3 other handicap spots available right there.
Right. Now anyone could say, well, you should never park in a handicap spot, but obviously, you were looking out. It was just in and out. It's not perfect, but that guy appeared to have been waiting for it anyway. And
I parked in the far handicap spot, not close, because otherwise you got to walk across the parking lot. And I didn't want to drag all 3 of my kids in their pajamas
in the rain.
It was night.
Yeah, it's a shitty situation. Yeah. No doubt. Nowadays, we would just have them bring the food to us. So all praise the pandemic, I guess.
Right. That was before even DoorDash and all that shit.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
So, yeah.
You are definitely right that interaction could have gone a lot differently if you had not been white. Mm-hmm. Very, very true. Okay. So this nasty, nasty lady says that they should hoof it back up to the lodge quickly before dark. And they talk briefly about this big stone tower that she's in front of. Again, very medieval looking. And George is pretty sure that if Montrose was anywhere, he would be in there. Yeah. He thought it was a prison. They're storing pig heads and other meat in there, but he says it has a stone foundation, which means there's a basement. So they think that's where Dad is. I guess. Well, and he was right. Right. He was right. I mean, the village must be just not very far because they walked. But these white people, I just imagine these white people bringing Montrose in there and locking, and none of the villagers are like, what are you doing with that guy? Well, they're all in on it. Well, we'll see in just a little bit how in on it all of them are to a certain extent. Okay, so they start. They're walking back, and George has a sudden recollection. Oddly, right there in the middle of the woods. Yeah. He remembered something that Tick's mom, Dora, had told him once about the great ancestor of theirs. Great ancestor was a slave named Hannah, and she escaped her master's house after a fire. Mm-hmm. Tick didn't tell them this, did he? I don't think. Because Tick knows. Did he know about that part? Yes. I don't know if he knew about that. I think he was told this by White Girl. Later. Yes. Not yet? No, not yet. Okay. And then as they're sitting there talking about that, and could this be tied to the whatever happened in here, monsters pop out of the ground. It's the Shoggoths. Right. Well, but these ones look a little different to me. Well, they still have... I wasn't sure, because again, the Shoggoth as written in Lovecraftian should be sort of more of a formless blob, but these guys still had those eyes all over their backs. I was looking for that part. Yeah. Yeah, so they pop out of the ground. Everyone's scared. And they're magic. Even though I knew it was Christina and we had seen her before, I wrote, the whitest lady ever rescues them with her whistle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's also super white, super blonde. She's pretty. Yes. Very pretty. She's no Letitia, but so they're in trouble now for whatever they did. And the dog lady's there. All of a sudden. Right. So Tick gets an escort to this lady, Christina's father's lab, and the others will be locked in their rooms. And even before they can blink twice, Letty and George already have forgotten everything. Mm-hmm. They're like, why are we so dirty all of a sudden? That's weird. And I assume that the only reason Tick doesn't forget is because he is of magic blood. I guess, yeah. There's a clue coming from Christina, actually. She'll talk about that. And it would seem that whoever wrote that magic spell coded in exceptions. And probably because of his blood. Yeah, Atticus must be part of those exceptions. On the exception list. Okay, so cut to this lab in the castle. Some sort of surgery is happening with a very, very screaming man. It looks like they're removing his liver.
I thought that it was like some kind of offering.
Yeah, I was expecting him to light it on fire or something, but it's actually worse. It's actually much, much worse. But there's the surgery going on without any kind of sedation. It is Samuel Braithwaite, as it turns out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I didn't look this one up. Shit, I'm going to have to look it up. When we cut away to George... maybe this wasn't important. But when George is hanging out in his room that he's been locked into, he sees this book called The House on the Borderlands. I didn't look that up to see if it's real.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they spoke about it earlier, maybe in the first episode.
Did they? Maybe. And he pulls on it, and it opens up a secret door. Now, I asked you while we were watching this, would you go through that secret door? I don't know if I would.
Well, so by this time, do they know that they're locked in their rooms yet?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Because I'm locked in my room. I got to find a way out.
But you know there's monsters.
Yeah, but we know they're going to do something. They're clearly do not have good intentions. So risk escaping and the monsters or waiting for them to do whatever they're going to do to you in this house of white people.
Yeah.
In Whitey's house.
All right. Fair enough. Whitey's house. Whitey in the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, George goes through. And he finds the biggest freaking library.
Right.
I mean,
it's humongous.
Big. But there's only one book that really catches his eye.
Well, it's on the table.
It's sitting there on the table.
The magnifying glass.
And it's the Bylaws and Precepts of the Order of the Ancient Dawn. Did that sound like anything to you?
No. Okay. I mean, yes, but no. Order of the Ancient Dawn sounds like something.
It does.
What is it?
My mind went to the Elder Scrolls video games. Skyrim, specifically.
Yes.
Where there's the Order of the Mythic Dawn.
Right.
Who are trying to bring about a demon-filled apocalypse through their magic rituals.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good one.
And I have to imagine that I don't know if the Order of the Ancient Dawn is actually a thing from Lovecraft mythos or if it is from this Lovecraft Country book only. Mm-hmm. But I have to wonder if there's connections in one direction or the other because we know that the Bethesda Softworks people who make these games like Lovecraft mythos because there's been quite a bit of it in the Fallout games.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of the Order ofs.
Yeah, I know. Ancient Dawn, Mythic Dawn.
The Order is a big thing everywhere.
Maybe Dawn is an important cult theme. I don't know. But that's just where my mind went. It might not mean anything. But for those of you that are gamers, maybe you know what I'm talking about.
I'm sure it has something to do with Lovecraft lore. Lovecraft lore.
I'll have to look that up at some point. Okay, so back in the lab. All right, so we get to know Mr. Samuel Braithwaite. He shows...
Now, they took out a big piece of his liver, at least
not
half.
His whole liver, probably not. Yeah,
at least half.
Just a good chunk. Mm-hmm.
It'll grow back.
Will it?
Maybe.
But he won't need it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to need his liver.
Not where he's going.
Livers are for suckers. But before we find out that plan, so he shows Atticus a painting that he says was called Genesis 2:19. That's the name of the painting.
Right.
Now, that is not the name of the painting, but because it's actually a real painting.
Right.
Yeah.
The real painting is, the artist is who?
Yeah, so I've got it here. Though Genesis 2:19 was, when we hear the quote of the Bible passage in the show, it's about the naming of the animals. That God created all these animals, and Adam's job was to give each of them a name. And then the debate, some of the like Talmudic ancient debate was... maybe the animals also were getting their identity from these names. Like they weren't necessarily fully formed at that point.
So like when he said platypus,
then it grew its bill.
And became a duck, beaver.
mammal that lays eggs. But this is actual, like a real actual painting. You can look it up. It's the artist is John Miles of Northleach. And this painting was made in the 1840s, and it's called Adam Naming the Animals.
And it looks like a woman to me.
I agree. It kind of looks like we see one human figure in the middle of the painting, and it kind of looks like he or she has boobies, but
now
it's really hard to tell.
Perhaps it really wasn't Adam, and it really was Eve or a female, and somebody was like, fuck that shit, I'm renaming this painting to Adam. It was in the 1800s.
Maybe.
Things could happen. Mm-hmm. The person that bought the painting from Mr. whatever his name was could have renamed it himself. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, look, it
looks like a woman to me.
So as they're talking about this painting and its meaning of Adam helping create the animals, the frame around the painting is noteworthy because it's inscribed with many names. And right at the top, we see Titus Braithwaite. We see Joseph Tannhauser, who is, in this world, the painter of this painting, even though that's not true. And then there's a bunch of other names. I don't know how important any of these names are going to be, but I was able to find a close-up image on the internet. So we have Horatio Winthrop. That's a good name. Abe Visigoths.
Visigoths.
Yeah, that's a really weird name. Smith Rogers. That one seems pretty tame. Richard Carby. Bard Ferdinand. That's one of the best. Like, that could easily be a Dungeons & Dragons character name. Margot Janes. Gerald Holloway.
Did you say Margot?
Yeah. Well, that's what it looks like. It's M-A-R-G-O, and then Janes, J-A-Y-N-E-S. Margot Janes. I bet you it's not a girl. They don't let girls into this club. And then Patrick Gilroy. So a few normal names and a few real weird ones. But let's watch out for those names. If any of them sound familiar in future episodes, it's probably going to mean something bad. All right. So anyway, they talk about the painting. Samuel compares himself to Adam, and he is waiting to return to paradise. Atticus tries to ask about where his dad is and gets kicked out of the lab. There will be no answers right now.
Get the fuck out of here.
All right. So Christina takes him back to his room. And Atticus is catching on about this memory loss thing being a magic spell. And she admits it. She's like, yep, we got magic. It's cool. He mentions the KKK and their rituals and penchant for wizardry and Dungeons and Dragons shit. And she says, no way. They're too poor for this group.
I see that.
They're rednecks. I mean, They really are. It's a very redneck
That's
organization.
Racist.
And these guys are this cult is very refined.
Isn't it?
They are not the KKK. But what she says that I found really noteworthy, and I didn't notice this till the second watching, so thank you for making us watch this twice. She says that the memory spell is linked to their guard dogs. It's not a spell that was cast on Letty and George. It's part of these monsters, the Shoggoths. So if they did not specifically enchant Letty and George's brains and it's not affecting Atticus, then that goes to that exception list thing that I was talking about earlier. So Atticus isn't affected either because he's got magical blood or because what his lineage puts him on that exception list for the spell. I'm not sure which one.
All right, well.
He can be affected by magic. We see it in just like 2 minutes. Like he gets into a fight with an illusion.
True. Yeah, that's maybe that's a hole in the plot.
So, but that was like a spell that they obviously cast right on him.
It's a spell in the room.
Plus, there's a spell on the room in the door. He can't get out of the room anymore.
Right.
There's magical runes inscribed.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's not immune to magic.
Well, okay, so they can spell their surroundings, but not his brain. But
yeah, or something, or it's something else. Right, but Christina's nice enough to turn off that memory spell. She can do that.
I think she has a crush on him.
I think so too.
Yeah. She wants to be more than just friends. Yeah, because he's like, you want to be my friend?
And I think Atticus is a little conflicted himself. I think he thinks she's
she's
cute.
Attractive, yeah.
Yeah, but he also likes Letty.
And she's very, 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 very white, which is so white. Like white.
She's very
weird.
White, yeah.
That's bad for me to say, but I don't know.
It'd be weird because she's so white.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we go back to this time period. That's probably what makes it so good. So
good.
So naughty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, Tick is trapped in his room while George and Letty are remembering all the horrible stuff that happened, and they're, Letty screaming and whatever. Right. And then a stable boy of some sort comes in to tell Christina that it's time.
Miss Braithwaite.
So we see Christina go out to a barn or a manger of some kind, and there's a cow giving birth. There's a breech. It's breech birth. Baby's coming out sideways.
Yeah, he said, you told us to let you know when it's breech.
So she goes elbow deep into a cow's vagina.
Uh-huh.
And pulls out just the cutest little baby you've ever seen in your life.
It looks just like the aliens that popped out of Rigby.
Of what?
Rigby.
Rigby?
Wasn't that his name?
Who?
Rigby.
I don't know.
From Aliens.
Well, Ripley was the main character, but that's Sigourney Weaver. She.
I thought there was a Rigby.
Eleanor Rigby?
What was the guy's name that had the thing pop out?
Oh God! I mean, the actor was John Hurt. But,
no, not. Yeah, his name in the show.
Fuck, I don't remember.
All right.
Sorry, it's been a long time. So she goes elbow deep, pulls out a baby Shoggoth, which seems to be like she's enamored.
Yes, she's so in love with this thing and rubbing it all over her face.
It's goopy.
It's more than goopy.
It's got all these little eyes. It has gills, I noticed.
Yeah, and a lot of teeth.
A lot of teeth, yeah, even for a baby.
That poor cow is about to get eaten.
Yeah, I hope that cow's going to be okay.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
And everybody's so happy.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
They're
that
celebrating.
Was the thing, is everybody, no one's like, holy fuck, I just came out of a cow. Everyone seemed to be expecting it. They're all happy. They all think it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like when you were saying before, what does the rest of this little village think? I mean, it seems like they're all in on it. Like they all know.
Well, at least the people that work there. But yeah, it must be everybody. But now that means that somebody had to get the sperm from some magic animal and inseminate it in the cow, or that magic monster
fucked a cow.
Made it the cow. Either way, pretty weird. Who's getting the sperm from the monster, and how are they getting it?
Oh God.
How are they getting it?
Could it please be magic and not that like some villager has to go jack off a Shoggoth?
I mean,
into a bottle.
I don't know. This is natural birth. It's got to be natural at some point.
It could just be a demon ritual. I hope it's just a ritual.
Okay. They put a spell on the cow.
They put a spell on the cow and a baby made.
Well, they can remove the spell and all of these monsters will become cows.
That would be an amazing twist at the end of this series. Okay. So back to the mansion, and we've got a few different scenes going on at the same time here. Let's see how this goes. Letitia tries to escape her room, but Atticus is there. Yay!
Oh, he's so sweet. He's going to comfort her.
He tries to calm her down, and I wrote down, is that really him? He was just trapped a second ago, but whatever. And they look at this painting on the wall of Adam and Eve, but Adam has a snake for a penis. I mean, I'm just saying, Adam with a snake penis would look pretty good on our walls.
What?
What do you think?
Uh-huh. Okay.
She said okay, everybody. So if you know where to get that painting, is that a real painting?
I don't know.
That would be the other question. Some of these are real paintings, some of them aren't. I mean, Titus Braithwaite, not a real painting that we can get for our house. But Adam with snake penis? That'd be all right. They talk about Letty's childhood, so we get some insight here. Maybe. But her mom used to leave her home alone a lot, and she would often come back with men, so men.
This is very confusing because she's a sister. She has a sister who she was singing with, and they were pissed off at her because she didn't come home for Mama's funeral.
Right. Well, so one day Mama never came back.
And she was so little that she couldn't take care of herself.
Right.
But then she sat in the boarding house window every day saying that interesting thing. She prayed to God.
Oh, uh-huh.
Give her strength. I don't know.
Oh, and yeah. The walk through the valley of the...
You'll always be with me.
Yeah.
So
maybe we'll get some information about this in the next episode because it seems like Letty and her sister are both in it. But yeah, I think the question now is, are they maybe all adopted?
It seems so.
Is that possible? But one way or another, it would seem that the mom that they were talking about in episode 1 was either a shit mom or not Letty's real mom. And maybe that's why she didn't feel a connection. Either way, I think it's somewhat justified to not, be super close to your mom.
Totally.
Right. So, and then Atticus is like, I will never abandon you, lady.
Now let's kiss.
Wow. They kiss. Start smooching. And then sure enough, that's not really Atticus at all because he is still trapped in his bedroom and he is sending Morse code through the wall to George where he has tapped out the word wizards.
Right.
And George somehow accepts this. I mean, maybe because he remembers the monsters now. Maybe that makes it easier to accept. But
well, yeah, and he can't get out of his room.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a spell on the door.
That's true. That's a fair point. So now they all know that wizards are involved. Okay, so someone pops out of the wardrobe like fucking Narnia shit. And I don't know if...
In Atticus's room.
In Atticus's room. And I don't know if it was actually said aloud or if we got it from the subtitles, but the lady's name is Gia.
No, I think that is actually means something.
I think that's her name.
Really? You think that was a person's name?
But I assume she's the Korean lady that he talked to on the phone, maybe, but maybe not.
Oh,
remember in episode
really?
1, he talked to someone in South Korea.
That's right.
But we don't know anything about this person.
I thought he was saying like stop or something in Vietnamese.
Oh, like Gia?
Right.
Oh, but we take Taekwondo. We know that stop is borrow.
That's Korean. I'm talking Vietnamese.
No, this is Korean.
Oh, I thought he said it was...
No, it wasn't Vietnam. That was the 70s.
Yeah, you're right.
This was the Korean War.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, over in George's room, he sees Dora, Atticus's mom. And definitely not George's wife, Hippolyta.
Right.
Definitely not her.
Kind of weird.
She's dead, says George. But she wants to dance anyway. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll dance with a corpse ghost. That happens. All right. So let's, God, where do we go with this? So let's just talk about Letty for a minute. Her whole storyline. So she's getting hot and heavy with fake Tick. And as they're really getting going, Tick kind of goes dead-eyed there a little bit.
Right. Like he's not so caring anymore. Yeah, now he's like, you're going to get it.
They're making, right. That's the look. Like they're making out passionately.
You're going to get it.
And then he stands up to start taking off his clothes and this is it. It's fuck time. Like that's all his face says at that point. And he starts pulling down his pants and it's a snake.
It's a snake.
Mm-hmm. An angry snake. Like what if she had her eyes closed?
It might feel good. Who knows? I don't know. Or it might bite her.
How do you make it wriggle like that?
But I mean, it was really trying to bite her. It didn't seem to be wanting to go into her vagina.
Right. And it was all an illusion. So what would have happened if it did bite her? Maybe it failed to bite her on purpose because the whole point was to terrify them, not kill them. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either what the point of all of that was.
It was kind of fucked up. And that was more or less the end of her part. Like
it was for a show for all the people because the guests are there now.
Right. Yeah. It's like watching television. But a really fucked up version of television. Mm-hmm. So she winds up fighting with the snake cock for a while. But as far as we know, nothing else really happens.
We didn't get to see what happened.
She's just struggling with the snake cock.
Try stabbing it, I believe.
Yeah, I think she got a hold of a knife and was like waving it. But it's really hard to stab a snake that's like flying through the air.
From somebody's pelvis.
From a pelvis, yeah. Takes some good muscle control to keep it up in the air like that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's impressive. All right. And then Atticus with Gia, they have just a messy brawl. She has a knife. She starts with guns. He gets the guns away from her. She pulls a knife. She stabs him in the shoulder real good. And then he eventually gets her down on the ground through some throwing and smashing, and he strangles her to death. And then he seems very upset by it.
Yeah, but first he seems very, like, mad. Like, while he's doing it, he seems totally in it. Not well,
he was trying
regretful.
to talk her down.
At first.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, like, he just snapped. Like, he hit a breaking point, maybe. Or maybe there's something else. I don't know.
I can't wait to hear about this whole thing. I completely forgot about the Korea thing.
From episode 1?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, it's been a week. It's been a long week.
Yes.
Skunk. Did we talk about how our dog got skunked? Huh?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, my God.
So much has happened in this episode, too. Like, these episodes are full.
Jam-packed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to take
They
in.
did great storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bigger one maybe was George. So he's dancing with Dora, and they're talking about how they all used to hang out in Tulsa. George and Montrose and Dora, and they would play a what if game, and what if magic were real. And I mean, it was all sort of like they didn't talk about anything super specific.
Important, right? Except for that they were all there together.
Right. But there was...
And it was good times.
There was some hinting, it seems. And George clearly has strong feelings for Dora.
Oh,
and he carries a picture of her around in his wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe in a book. I don't know, somewhere. Like Atticus saw that in the last episode. Someone saw that.
It was a picture of all three of them, wasn't it?
I think so. But he has a picture of Dora. There's an implication that maybe they have feelings for each other.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's pretty
for sure.
Well, they definitely have feelings for each other. I guess the question is, did they fuck? And I think the answer is yes.
They made love.
Sure.
You're so crude.
And he winds up like she is maybe going to try to seduce him. She's talking about how magic could be possible now, and like he could actually fly with his children. Like he used to fantasize
what is all
about.
that? What is she leading to?
But then she wants to kiss him. So it seems like they're eventually going to wind up trying to fuck.
The kiss is going to be the kiss of death.
Maybe she has a snake tongue. But he just kisses her on the forehead and's like, it's nice seeing you, lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not real.
You're not real.
He's so calm.
But he's the smartest one of all three of them. He figured it out. And he was just kind of playing along anyway. But he knew right from the get-go that what was happening wasn't real. So good for George.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, Christina and then also a bunch of tuxedo-clad party guests are all watching this stuff happen through the walls or mirrors or maybe fireplaces, something. It's all like television. They're all
laughing and having a good old time.
Right, and just like having cocktails and chit-chat while like Letty is fighting for her life against a snake cock.
Right. Now, what some interesting things are that while they're in there watching all these men, the white girl... Christina walks through also, and as she's walking by these men, they're like, what is she doing here?
Right. What's Samuel's daughter doing here?
Right.
We hate women. And actually, they do hate women. So the dinner bell rings, and each one of these guys, Atticus, Letty, George, they all come out of their bedrooms, and they're fine. Like, Atticus doesn't have a stab wound in his shoulder. Letty doesn't have a cock.
She's pretty shaken up.
In her hands. Yeah, they're all shaken up, clearly. Although George is holding it together.
I wonder if maybe she did get raped by the snake.
Oh, well, maybe. I mean, she was in there for a while. Yeah. How long can you fight off a snake for? It has the power of...
Right, and that guy is strong.
Magic cock. But the bad news is that it is time for dinner. They have to put on their black tie outfits, but Letty can't come. It's men only.
Right.
So,
which
Christina's not
I would
welcome.
be freaked out by. I'd be like, I don't want to be by myself here.
Oh, well, she'll be having a nice dinner out on the veranda.
I know.
It'll be lovely.
That's what they say.
Mm-hmm. So Atticus is feeling guilty about something that happened during the war, but he doesn't go into details. George doesn't really want to talk about what he saw.
Right.
And Letty's just traumatized. But George does say he thinks he found something helpful.
Mm-hmm. And he brings everybody together and he's like, don't let them get to us. Stay strong. I got it covered.
Right. And then...
Assumedly, they have some conversation between this scene and the next scene.
Yeah, if they were in a hurry, they had to probably get dressed together and have this conversation while they're getting dressed. So Tick and George go to dinner. They're wearing fancy clothes. Lots of nasty looks from the cultists. They're not happy to see
these
black men in their midst. And William even mentions that, like, just because they don't want you here doesn't mean you shouldn't be here.
I think he's on their side.
I think William's okay. I don't think he's necessarily a villain in this. And Christina's probably not either.
And I think they were plotting against their dad, or she was plotting against her dad. And that's why she wrote the letter and made Tick come here, because her dad didn't want him there. I think that this was her way of... Wait,
but Montrose, when we meet him, which we will soon, he mentions having written a letter under duress.
No, he said, I didn't write no letter.
Oh.
Pretty sure he said, we haven't spoken in 5 years.
Yes, he did say that.
And you always fight me. I didn't write no... She wrote the letter and coaxed him here. And they were kind of talking about that during the next scene.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the dinner first. So Samuel arrives. He gives everyone a thinly sliced piece of liver. Yummy.
Raw.
It's the perfect aperitif.
What's it called? When you eat raw meat, what is it called?
Not sashimi, because that's fish. Fuck, I don't remember.
Okay.
Something that I don't do. That's what it is.
Right.
And liver to boot. Like, it's not going to taste good.
Maybe raw liver tastes better than cooked. But cooked liver, ugh.
I doubt it. I mean, it's your body's toxin filter. How good could it taste?
It tastes like toxins, but at least that guy's probably pretty clean. He eats right. He's Adam.
Yeah, maybe. He's pretty fit for his age. All right, so tomorrow is the birth of a new era. Samuel's getting all excited about this, whatever's happening. But George interrupts. And he says, hey, I found these bylaws you have. I know a little thing or two about Freemasonry, and bylaws are super important. Blah, blah, blah. Men who are direct descendants of Titus Braithwaite are automatic members, even though you don't let black people in. And they're allowed to give orders that you have to follow. So Atticus decides to flex on that, hoping it's true. I mean, I feel like it was at least a little bit of a gamble. But he flexes and says, everybody get the fuck out of here. And he took like 2 tries, but they do. They all get up and leave.
I was surprised.
Which means they all know what's up. They all know who Atticus is and why he's there.
I was expecting this thing to backfire because that's how shows go.
Yeah, I kind of was too. But he actually is. But that means he is a blood descendant of Titus Braithwaite. Which I do feel will be important.
That makes... So what relation is he to the dad?
Well, so...
What's his name?
See, I think this is where everything got fucked up. I think this is why Atticus had to be there. So Dora was the one who once told George about Dora's ancestor, that was this pregnant slave lady that escaped a house fire. So that means the magical blood was on Dora's side, which means Montrose and George have no magic blood. And so they got Montrose to come over because they were following some
Wait.
What?
Dora was pregnant with the magical guy's sperm.
Not Dora. Nellie? What was her name?
No. Hannah.
Yeah, that's
was pregnant with the magical guy's sperm. Hannah had a baby. And then they just went off and had more family.
Right. That was like three.
So now here's
earlier.
New dad, Braithwaite.
Samuel.
Samuel Braithwaite. What relation is he to Titus?
He's
just another descendant.
Actually, so, in the earlier scene, William said that Titus Braithwaite was a cousin of Samuel.
Okay, so they're like great cousins.
Yeah, like great cousin 5 times removed.
Got it. Thanks.
Still have magical blood.
They're like bros, man.
Well, maybe he doesn't have magical blood. Maybe that's the problem. Like, he's really trying, but he's not quite there. Like Titus, they said Titus went through some shit to get his power.
But he also died right then.
Titus
died.
Well, he had I think, a long and storied career of being a successful cultist until he probably went too far.
He had those other children before.
Oh, yeah, probably. But if we go to the Lovecraftian side of things, like, I think that's a theme, is like people figure out that they can tap into this dark magic and use it and, get power and money and become shapers of the world. but you can take it too far. And if you take it too far, the magic will consume you.
So that's where we're at today.
Either by demons and madness, getting eaten, going insane, or, maybe just the magic itself burns you up.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Okay. What?
But he doesn't have the magic, and that's why he needs the blood of...
Right. Well, Samuel's been practicing magic. I mean, Christina can do some magic.
He's just not powerful enough.
He's not. He needs a conduit. So Samuel makes it clear he's not a true believer per se on a religious sense, but he wants this power. And Atticus is a reservoir of Titus's power that was passed down through the blood. And he has a little quote here because he's pretty mad at Tick. He says, "Do not mistake useful for indispensable," which I feel like he was kind of bluffing, maybe.
Right, of course he is, because he definitely needs him.
Yeah, I think he's bluffing a little bit.
But again, I think he didn't think he needs him. I think the daughter is the one that made Tick come, and she said he'll give you a guaranteed opening for the Garden of Eden or whatever. You need more blood, of pure blood.
I guess.
He didn't want him there. He said so.
But he needs him.
I think he doesn't truly believe that he needs him, but can't hurt.
Okay. Well, let's see. So they get put in the dungeon, like under that tower that we saw earlier. The dog lady pulls a gun on them and appears to be implying she's going to feed them to the dogs, which again doesn't make a whole lot of sense since we know that Atticus is needed, but whatever. And Letitia, I don't know how she got there. I guess she must have vaulted off the veranda.
She got the Woody, she said.
But she knocks that lady out, and they're going to make their prison break now. But rather than running out, they think Montrose is around here somewhere, and they start searching this stone dungeon area, and they find a fake brick and a secret passage to get out, which really takes us back to the previous episode. I was thinking about this when we saw the book in the first place. It was in, I think, Dad's house, Montrose's house, was the Count of Monte Cristo, which is about a prison break, right? So, yeah, I think that was all connected there. But, and we don't really know what happened with Montrose, but, like, the others are out of the dungeon, and then Montrose emerges all of a sudden from the ground, like he just escaped wherever he was, and then they all
right. That would have taken forever to dig that tunnel.
It was a little confusing to me.
His hands weren't even bloodied.
But he escaped, and they found him, and whatever. They're all together now, so it's good. That was maybe the one flaw in this episode that I just didn't understand was what was happening right there. But okay, well, so I wrote down. He says he wrote the letter under duress.
Really?
I wrote that down in my notes. Yeah. But yeah, it's not a happy reunion, but he does come with them as they drive away. They're trying to get off the grounds. They're going to escape all this. George was reading, I guess, maybe from their books and says the cult is trying to find the secret to immortality. Great. We got some info. And then they hit this magic wall.
Dang.
The silver car is destroyed.
Right.
The one thing I'll say is, since they didn't see that coming, they didn't tense up, they probably weren't hurt as badly as they could have been in that crash. And that's probably why they all get out of the car.
Well, it was magic, too.
And it was magic. The Braithwaites arrive, and Samuel shoots Letty in the stomach, and she dies. Bop, bop.
Yeah, not very nice.
No, not very nice at all. It was, and they really spent time on it.
Yes, her dying was, she was good. Mm-hmm. That was a good death.
And then George also got shot. They didn't really show it, but he did. So she's dead.
You don't know who gets shot because they're like, no! And then, because he was out telling him you had to choose who you want to die. Do you want your dad to die, or do you want your Uncle George to die? Or
no one, maybe.
No.
Did he say one of them has to die? I mean, he said you get to choose who lives from this point forward or something, but...
Yeah, I think he was going to shoot somebody no matter what.
Maybe. Well, and he did. He did. And then we hard cut, so Letty's dead, right? George shot. And now suddenly Tick is being bathed, very naked.
I know. Come on, front shot.
Sorry, babe. I was really hoping you'd get to see some...
Oh my goodness, me too.
Yeah. Give me shit about Letty, will you?
I didn't. Only when you had to rub it in my nose. I mean, is that right?
And we get
my nose in it.
We get our exposition. What's about to happen is a ceremony that will be opening the door to the original Garden of Eden.
Woohoo!
And from there, immortality.
I'd go.
They have to speak the language of Adam, which is very dangerous.
Right.
the language of Adam.
Is that a real thing?
No.
Okay.
I was doing some research on that. The language that they were using in the show was completely made up and or a derivation of some old Celtic something. I was doing a little bit of research on that. Now there are biblical ancient languages. I mean, there is like Adamic something, but probably a precursor of Hebrew, but that's not what they were speaking in the show. But what was weird was Jia, the Korean lady, she, according to the subtitles, was shouting something in the language of Adam. So she wasn't even speaking Korean.
Right. And we don't know what she said.
Just very strange. No,
I wish they would have subtitles. Come on.
Well, we're not supposed to know what she said. But I like having the subtitles on because we know it wasn't Korean. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Christina seems, I wrote this down, she seems very disenchanted with her family, the whole cult thing. Like, she's not happy, at the very least, because as a woman, she doesn't get to have like a seat at the table.
Right. She's worth nothing.
Right. Or this cool signet ring. But then we find out Letty's okay. She's not really dead. She was dead, but then she's okay.
She wakes up, right.
Samuel healed her. Isn't he a nice guy?
Yes. So we take from that they made a deal. You bring back Letitia and Uncle George, fine, and I'll do your thing.
Right. But George has to wait until after the ceremony. So he's just slowly bleeding to death in a bed.
Letitia was kind of like a proof of purchase.
Right. And she, again, for the 60th time in 24 hours is horribly traumatized.
Poor girl.
She wakes up screaming.
She's going to be shell-shocked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she needs a lot of fucking therapy and probably she deserves some Prozac.
Yeah, she cried and that they took a long time showing her freak out.
Yeah. And it was all through that magical like fireplace or whatever again. So Tick gets to watch all that while he's getting ready for the ceremony. But Tick gets a signet ring of the order. He's really a member now. Mm-hmm. And he gets some advice from Christina. Maybe.
Interesting advice, right?
The smallest, most inconsequential thing can take you on a new course. And I don't know if that really means anything for this episode or if it's something that's coming up in the future, but I thought it might prove noteworthy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. And then we get a scene between George and Tick. The crux of it, like they fight a lot, whatever, they argue. We hear that Montrose had a terrible childhood. Their dad beat him and all that. But the big part of this conversation.
You mean Montrose and George?
What did I say?
You said George and Tick.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, conversation between Montrose and George.
George and Montrose. So
George is like on the dying.
Montrose like used to be an artist and then got that beaten out of him by their dad or something like that. I don't know, whatever it was. But the big reveal here, almost reveal, is when George is telling Montrose, he mentions, Tick might not be your kid.
Right. So
I think that confirms that Dora and George fucked. It's just we don't have DNA testing.
Right. I wonder what happened.
Yeah. And they're brothers.
And
so the DNA is going to be a close match.
Anyway. Atticus is so much more like George than his shit dad.
Totally. But that could also just be because George was a better role model.
Yeah, but also his dad had a really hard upbringing, apparently.
But they have the same dad.
Do they?
George and...
Yeah, they're brothers,
George
right?
and Montrose are brothers, right?
Well, I mean, clearly he didn't get the same treatment. George was not as badly treated as Montrose.
It would not
Montrose
seem
got
so.
fucked up.
Yeah, it would not seem so. And Montrose is like pretty angry when George brings that up, but we get no satisfaction from any of it.
Right. We weren't going to talk about that no mo.
Right. We just get the hint that maybe Tick belongs to George. Anyway, then the big scene happens. The cult scene. The ceremony begins. And we get Whitey on the moon. Whitey on the moon.
I love that.
Naturally, I have some notes ready to go here. Does the name... Oh, where'd it go? Gil Scott Heron mean anything to you?
No.
Okay. I knew I had heard that name somewhere before. I had to dive deeper. Well, he's like a forefather of rap. Like he was a spoken word musician, which as we heard with Whitey on the Moon poem, it's basically a poem, but he's doing it with music in the background. What's the difference, really? I mean, rap didn't exist then, so it was just called
songs or
word.
poems, basically with music in the background.
Right. So he was very influential to what would eventually become rap. I mean, hip hop, everything. Like he's
That's
one
cool.
of the greats.
That's cool.
I had heard of him because of The Revolution Would Not Be Televised. Are you familiar with that one?
No.
It's very famous.
Sounds familiar.
I remember we listened to it once in a college class, and I had to go look it up after that because it was so interesting.
Really?
But, yeah. It was pretty cool.
What is it?
We're not going to play it here. It's another spoken word musical piece.
Okay.
So background music in his poem.
What is it called again?
The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
Okay.
Look that up, everybody. Look it up. You'll love it. But this one is his another famous one, song of his called Whitey on the Moon. The lyrics are so sad. But
true, like
sad but true. It's like ironic
right
humor.
Now.
And again, relevant now.
Yes.
Right. So every other line is, something about Whitey being on the moon. But
you're not going to read it? Read it.
Well, I was just going to read. I was going to skip the Whitey on the moon parts. But a rat done bit my sister Nell. Her face and arms began to swell. I can't pay no doctor bill. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still. That's a problem right now.
No shit.
I mean, it's not just black people, but it's a problem.
Right.
And black people, I mean, there's plenty of statistics. Like,
everywhere.
It's worse. Like, it's
everywhere.
It's like COVID. COVID's hitting the African-American communities worse because they don't have as good access to healthcare and often live in higher population density areas, which makes the virus spread faster. It's fucking...
Calm down.
Excuse me. Well, here we go. The man just upped my rent last night. No hot water, no toilets, no lights. I wonder why he upping me. I was already paying him $50 a week. Taxes taking my whole damn check. Junkies making me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up as if all of that shit wasn't enough. A rat done bit my sister now. So again, nothing changes in our society. Rent.
Right.
I mean, we're all, not all, but so many of us are slaves to rent. Like you and I, we own a home now
We're slaves to that, though. It's just the same thing.
Almost.
We're really not getting anything from it in the end, because you pay so much in interest over time.
We might get something from it in the end.
Well, no, not really, because if you think about it, you're paying all that money in interest. You're not making anything if you sell it because you paid more interest than you did when you sold it. Than the profit when you sold it. Usually.
Yeah, but if you're renting, you have nothing at the end of it.
I know, but you still really, you really have nothing.
Back. It's basically like if you sell your house later on down the line and you kind of more or less break even on it, like it's as if you didn't pay rent all those years.
The only difference is you have the stress of taking care of it, but you can usually do whatever you want to it inside.
Yeah.
Maybe not outside, but inside.
In terms of generational wealth, owning property is really kind of a key point, though, because it does in the long term pay off.
It used to.
I mean, I think it still will.
We'll figure that out later.
We'll see in a few decades, but historically speaking, that's a big part of generational wealth, and of course, that's not something that black people had. The ability to get. Like, no one wanted to sell them houses. Like,
well, yeah, and there was a time where they couldn't buy land.
Redlining alone, right? Yeah, I mean, banks wouldn't give you a mortgage, so and then so many neighborhoods you weren't allowed to own property in. So yeah, I mean but it still hasn't changed that much. White people, by and large, still have more of that going on. But you look around where we live. I mean, Orange County's pretty white.
No.
Well, I'm just saying. And more and more apartment complexes are springing up everywhere because property values are so high. People can't afford to buy most of the time. And you just wind up stuck paying rent. And every time you get a raise, your rent goes up. And
right. You never make more money. You're making less.
And the system is designed that way. It's designed to make sure that it's very hard to get out of paying rent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you have time to learn and think. For yourself.
Right.
You're not a slave to life, basically. You're not a slave to money. And if you're not a slave to money, you have time to develop other things like learning about politics and what's really going on in this world.
Mm-hmm. But if we are all kept at a high degree of stress, maybe have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, then you don't have time to process.
Right. Mm-hmm. So sad.
It is. And it was like this. I mean, okay, so the show takes place in whatever we figured, the 50s or something. Whitey on the Moon was 70s, it was 60s or 70s. So it's not exactly a period piece. But I mean, it all is the same over and over and over again. It's the same fucking cycle. And it hasn't really changed that much to this day. And that's why we have people marching in the streets today.
Right. Okay, back to the show.
Shame.
Here we go.
So that was Whitey on the Moon. Okay. So while Whitey on the Moon is playing, not in the scene, but over the scene, the ceremony begins. There's lightning. A golden light forms around Tick, and it seems to hurt, but he's like sort of handling it okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he's just more shocked by it. It feels weird.
Maybe it tickles.
I don't know.
It's going to make him sneeze.
He's like, what the fuck?
So this golden light starts to form around him, and it's like particles, and it like comes off of him and opens up this golden portal. It's very pretty. Yeah. And then like on the ground, plants start growing. Plants are starting to envelop Atticus.
Eden.
They're trying to open up a portal to the Garden of Eden. It appears to be working.
They're happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very excited. Samuel's chanting in his language of Adam. Adamic, yeah. Except not.
Adamic.
But then Tick, and apparently only Tick, sees a pregnant black lady on the other side of this portal.
And black stuff starts like swirling around him, smoke.
Right.
It's like the smoke monster from
something
Lost.
Starts to go wrong. Yeah. So he's staring at what is obviously Hannah, the slave. So he's staring at Hannah. And yeah, something, maybe either Samuel's not doing a good job, or maybe the ghost of Hannah is fucking things up on purpose. I don't know which one. I do wonder if there was a part of this where Atticus was going to be okay, because the plants were starting to envelop him.
Right. I think he would have been goners.
I think he was probably going to be a sacrificial lamb. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen. Maybe that's the point. Maybe Hannah saved him by interrupting the ceremony.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. It's a pretty good trick for a ghost.
Yeah.
So the plants start to turn black, and Samuel's like chanting harder and harder, but he's like, he knows something. He's shouting his words as if that's going to help. Yeah, just speak louder. That's the problem. Right. You weren't speaking loud enough.
That's
typical. And then all of a sudden, Tick screams real loud.
He figures something out. I can't figure out what it is, but he's just watching her, and then all of a sudden something comes over him, and he's like,
You don't think it was just frustration?
No.
All right. Maybe she got a message through to him. Like, you better scream, son.
I don't know.
And he screams, and a magic blast comes out of him.
Uh-huh.
And the cultists that are in the room turn to stone. And that effect on Samuel was fucking awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, God.
Turned to stone.
Very satisfying.
I loved it. Yeah. So you're like, for once, we feel good about something that has happened in a disastrous situation.
A bad thing happened to a bad person. That doesn't happen enough. Now we're in real suspension of disbelief territory now. This is true fantasy. A bad person got their comeuppance.
Yes.
And the house starts to rumble, starts to fall apart.
The ghost leads him out.
Right. Hannah leads him out, and like Letty and George and Montrose made their own path and made really good time. So,
yeah, with a hurt person.
Yeah, George can barely walk. And yeah. So he gets out of the house. He just runs and runs and runs, follows Hannah, gets to the door. As the house turns into almost a sinkhole, it's just gone, just leveled. No house anymore. I'm going to miss that place.
I like his outfit.
It was so pretty. You like his robe?
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It looked comfy, very airy. Mm-hmm. I think that would feel good on the old twig and berries. Sticking with the Garden of Eden metaphor.
Oh, the snake and the apples.
I like that one better. Okay, so he gets outside. He immediately is like, wait, what about my friends? Because they're all dead now, I guess. But then Letty calls for him. He's relieved. She's there. She has the car. Montrose and George are in the car, but George didn't make it.
No, and that look between them, it was such incredible acting. I cried both times I saw that scene.
Letty told him everything he needed to know with her eyes. It was good acting on her part.
So good.
Way to go, Journey Smollett.
Getting all choked up now.
Oh, babe. It's okay. Maybe we'll see George again. I mean, Tick's got the magic in him.
Maybe. Oh, that's true.
It could happen.
Could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not.
I'm not counting on it, but it could happen. And that's the end of the episode.
It felt like that was the end of the entire season or series.
I mean, it could have been a 2-hour movie. I mean, it would have been a fantastic movie on its own.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Although it would leave you wanting more.
It was so satisfying. It was so satisfying.
I mean, it was very well self-contained, but we only saw a few cultists turn to stone. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping that's not the last we see of William and Christina.
They did say that the Braithwaites were from the Michigan chapter.
Someone was. I don't know if they were talking about Christina.
Isn't he from the Michigan chapter? When they were talking about...
Right, because it was he. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't Christina they were talking about.
No, but he said, so why is Braithwaite's daughter here? And he's like, I don't know. Isn't he from the Michigan chapter?
Oh, you think Samuel was from the Michigan chapter?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if those were two separate conversations we were
Could have been, but I think it was tied together. I think they're from Michigan.
Well, I have to imagine that Christina wasn't invited to the ceremony. William wasn't invited to the ceremony. I'm hoping and praying that they were in town snuggling that baby Shoggoth.
Wait a second. Christina and William...
Well, William's not a Braithwaite, but he
left.
He wasn't there.
He was only there at the beginning when he sat them, and then they were gone, right?
Yeah, I don't think we saw him.
No, she was there for preparing for the ceremony.
Preparing, but she wasn't invited to the ceremony. So she could have left, and I hope she did, because we didn't see her die, and if you don't see him die, that's important.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
We saw Samuel die. He ain't coming back.
This was her plan the entire time. She's going to become the evil witch.
Oh, yeah. You know what? She probably knew something was going to go wrong because the language of Adam is super hard. She's the one that was telling us that.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous. So she would have been smart to not be on the premises.
And she's like, the smallest thing can take you in a completely different course. Mm-hmm. She made her own course, whatever she's planning.
Gosh, yeah. I really hope we get more out of them. And I like the idea that cult's still out there, even if they just had a major setback. I like the idea that she knows magic.
I think that she or William they left that book on the table to be found.
Oh, maybe.
And somebody placed that book into the thing so that he would recognize it and pull it.
Right. That book was like sticking out a little bit too.
Right. Somebody placed it there so that he would find it.
That could have been an intentional clue from Christina, trying to bring about the downfall of her family because she hates him. That's okay. And William's not part of the family.
God, I would too.
Yeah. So I'm going to say we haven't seen the last of them, but I don't think we're going to see them next episode.
I like her outfit.
Who?
Christina. Mm-hmm.
Like she was wearing a nice skirt.
No, I like that silver shirt. Yeah.
Oh, the one. Well, that got a lot of goop on it.
Oh, yeah. After the breach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The breach.
I'm sure the butler will get those stains out. That's what they pay him for. So next episode appears to be going in a completely different direction. But we still get the same characters. Atticus, Letty. Not George. But we will see, it looks like Letty's going to buy a house. And it appears to be a haunted house. And there's also definitely going to be more racism.
Always.
And maybe ghosts will save the day. I don't know. As we're recording this, because we had such a crazy week, that episode is tomorrow. So we're going to get to talk about it very, very soon, I hope. Maybe even tomorrow night.
We apologize for anything we didn't cut out of this episode, but we don't have time.
I think we hit it all. But if we missed something, or what about that one book I didn't look up? I forgot to look that one up. Anything we missed, hit us up. You can reach me, Jeff@potofthrones.com.
Jennifer at Pot of Thrones. No, Cod.
What? Cod?
Jennifer at potofthrones.com.
Not .cod. You don't want that site. Or, of course, on Twitter, if you want to tweet at us, you can reach me at Pod of Thrones.
At Kid Free Weekend.
Yes. So let us know. What did you think? What did you think of the episode? What did we miss? Any clues, interesting things? But do not give us book spoilers, because the book is something to talk about another day. I don't
want to be spoiled.
Yeah. I don't want to either. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So let's go give the dog another tomato juice bath and try to get the skunk smell off of her. And we will be back hopefully within just a day or two, I think.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. Because we're excited to watch episode 3. It's going to be amazing. All right.
Still need a sign off.
What?
Shoggoth? That's not a good sign off.
But it's fun to say. Shoggoth. Try it.
Shoggoth.
Get a little more in there. Shoggoth.
Shoggoth.